All right. All right. What a show. Now I know that this is like a day late or 2 days late, depending on when it's uploaded. But welcome. I am your host of the Square Map podcast. And to say the least, the show wasn't bad, wasn't good. It was all around all around a safe show. Except for like 3 things I have a problem with, but other than that, they're minuscule. But anyway, let's get into the video. Let's get into the show. If you haven't already, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna ask this again at the end of the video, but let's get to it. So the show opened up with a recap package highlighting last week's events, including of Orton's of Orton's attack on Matt Cardona. They basically did a recap of what happened last week, even on Monday Night Raw. Like I said in my Raw review, they did that r- repackage again. I don't like that. I don't like how they have done that. I don't like how they have constantly done recaps on the show, and they do it for one reason and one reason only. They only do that to pad out the runtime. That's my only issue with it. Whatever. So they do the recap of what happened last week, and then the show opens up actually with Randy Orton coming out to the ring and bringing up yet again. He's doing the same promo he did last week of how he addressed the crowd. He reflects on his recent conversation with Cody 2 weeks ago, where Cody Rhodes urged him to embrace the voices in his head and become the best Viper. Cody wants the Viper Randy Orton back. He wants the best version of Orton. And we all know how that turned out. Orton felt like it gave him an all clear for what Orton said, where, like, I give you my blessing. So, because of that, Orton outright says, all right, well, I'm not responsible. So, Orton felt, and he decimated Orton. Orton decimated Cody 2 weeks ago. Orton admit that he had to shut those voices out for years, but is now listening again, and how he is focusing on his legacy, and he is focusing on number 15 of the world title. Like I said earlier, he credited Rhodes for the blessing, but he warned he couldn't be held responsible for what happens next. But before he can continue, Matt Cardona comes out, interrupts him. Mind you, he has a arm cast on. He has an arm cast on his left arm because of what happened last week, where Orton stomped on his arm with a chair. So Orton is constantly talking and talking while Matt Cardona is walking into the ring. Then Cardona gets into the ring. He has a mic in hand, but he's not talking. He decks Orton in the head with the microphone. Security comes out, separate both of the two, and then we get the commercial. Mind you, the weird thing about this segment is that, or Randy Orton in general, but their weird booking with Orton is that you'll see more about it tonight when I talk about it. They have been this company have been trying their hardest to they've been trying their hardest to get Orton booed, but it is just not working. It's not. Even after what happened with Matt Cardona in this segment right now, the crowd was chanting for Orton. And when Orton was decimating Cody, the crowd was chanting for Orton. It Nothing is gonna work unless you have Orton do something clearly like, "Oh my god." But even then, this crowd's gonna eat that up because it's Randy Orton, especially in this time of his age, and he's so close to number 15. Yeah, no. They're not gonna boot Orton. Personally, I'm not. So, so after the segment, after the segment, when it gets back to commercial, it shows a backstage segment with Nick Aldis congratulating Trick Williams. Um, Congratulating Trick Williams and promising him a WrestleMania match. Sami Zayn comes into the segment and congratulates Trick Williams as well. Or so yeah, like Trick Williams, like Nick Aldis is talking to someone. Williams comes in, and Williams and Nick Aldis is congratulating Trick Williams for how he's been doing lately, and he is promising Trick Williams a WrestleMania match. And then Sami Zayn comes in, congratulates Trick Williams as well, and then he asks Nick Aldis, "What about me?" Nick Aldis said that he's not gonna that he can't get a WrestleMania match for Sammy. And then Trick Williams, being a heel, quote unquote, um, he outright he's like, "Better luck next time." And then Sammy walks off. The camera's still panning the conversation in the background of Trick Williams and Nick Aldis talking, mainly Williams. And then Sammy looks conflicted, and then he turns around and he decks Trick Williams in the face. He decks him in the face, and he walks off. But before he walks off, he tells Nick Aldis that he is going to have a WrestleMania match. And then also later, a backstage segment with Nick Aldis as well. Um, Randy Orton confronts Aldis backstage and demands a match with Matt Cardona. Aldis agreed. Fair enough. So we are finally on to our first match of the night. The matches tonight were honestly really good. I would have to say, I want to say better, but like it did the job tonight. It was actually a pretty good show tonight in terms of matches, at least sometimes, but still. So the match tonight was the Bella Twins versus Charlexa, or Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. And uh but before they could have their match, you got the irresistible forces, Nia Jax and Legend, the women's tag team champions. They come in and talk trash, and then they promote their match that's happening on Raw next week against Bailey and Lyra Valkyria. So throughout the entire match, the irresistible forces sit at ringside near the announce table and watch the match unfold. The match was pretty good. I was very worried about it because it's the Bellas. Because I really haven't seen the Bellas have a good match. But to be honest, they did have a good match. They did have a good tag team match. Um, you got the basic stuff with Charlotte Flair, the chops, that weird um handspring clothesline. Uh, Surprisingly, surprisingly, the fans have been cheering and loving Charlotte. Mainly, they like Alexa Bliss more, but they do like Charlotte. Personally, for years I've kind of didn't like Charlotte. Self-explanatory for it because of their booking of Charlotte constantly in the main event picture. So it is kind of a breath of fresh air for an entire year that she is not in the main event scene. So majority of the time of the match, like it's like a fair back and forth, but then towards the end, Alexa Bliss is getting the upper hand. She's controlling the match, and then the referee is distracted because of some shenanigans with Charlotte Flair and Nikki Bella. Brie, but they as a sequence happens where Brie Bella Alexa Bliss does a roll up and then goes to another roll up. Brie Bella kicks out, practically pushes her towards the rope. Lash Legend punches her in the face where the ref didn't see. Brie Bella capitalized it with a roll up, and then the Bella twins get the victory for the night for the match. After the match was done, the Bellas were celebrating shortly until everyone got attacked by Nia Jax and Lash Legend. They took out the Bellas, they took out but they took out Charlotte. But then they were about to do a tag team move. I don't know what they were going for. It looked like some type of Samoan Samoan, like not Samoan, some leg drop sidewalk slam combo. Would have been cool, but we didn't get that because Bailey and Lyra Valkyria came out and made the save. They cleared the ring and everyone stood tall. The weird thing about it after that is that even though Bailey and Lyra Valkyria came in to make the save, they still played the Bella's theme song. I always found that odd. It was a really odd choice because normally in WWE or in wrestling in general, if the person is coming out to make the save, the person making the save has their theme song play after the saving. Not, I don't know. But after all of the women, all six women are in there in the ring, the Bellas, Charlexa and Bailey and Valkyria. Sh- Char- Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss go and leave the ring, but before they leave the ring, Flair shoves Brie Bella out the way, and and then there was a backstage segment after that. When it gets to commercial, it comes back. They get a backstage segment between Charlexa and uh, Bl- uh the Bellas. Um, they they go back and forth saying they had the Bellas beat, and how the Bellas say that they had no they had no correlation of knowing or even having any requests of getting help from Lash Legend and Nia Jax. And then that was it about that whole tag team shit. I like it. Honestly, I really do like the fact that they are finally building up the tag team division. Like, shoot, it took them so many years to build them up, but think about it, man. Like, you got like Bailey and Valkyra, Charlexa, Nia Jackson, Lash Legend, the Bellas. Um, they got the Kabuki Warriors, but they don't really do anything right now because they got the own little story with Kairi Sane and Asuka. But like, you had Rio and Io Sky, but that thing ended. Still, overall, it's pretty good, and I think with what is going on right now is that they are building up to a ladder match at WrestleMania. Honestly, I think that's where it's going. Bailey and Valkyria are not going to win on Raw. I would like for it to happen, but it's not happening. They're not going to. They're not going to change the tag titles that because they need a They need all these women on the card. And then another backstage segment happened, but it was more of a comedy segment, where you got Damian Priest and R-Truth talking, and then Jelly Roll came in, uh, congratulating Priest about winning the tag titles and about Orton and stuff. And then Truth mistook Dominic Mysterio, or mistook Jelly Roll for Dominic Mysterio. And then, it was a pretty funny segment. Rhea Ripley comes in as well into the segment, and then it adds more fuel to the fire of our Truth's mistaking, where Truth got excited thinking, and I quote, "Mommy and Dom are back together," or the Judgment Day back. It was just a really funny segment. Um, and then uh, Truth and Truth runs off. Well, no, first before he runs off, Jelly Roll then gives Rhea Ripley advice for her WrestleMania match against Jade Cargill before heading into his own match. Um, and then Truth walked off with Jelly Roll falling behind, which was honestly. And then after that, which was pretty funny. And then Rhea Ripley congratulates Damian Priest for the tag titles, and then that was the end of that segment. Commercial goes in, and then it cuts to a entrance to Rhea Ripley's entrance. They go straight to Jay Cargill Rhea Ripley feud for the segment tonight. So, um, they Ripley Ripley calls out Jay Cargill and her new allies Meechin and BFAB. She expressed surprise at the alliance, but vowed to handle them at WrestleMania. Uh, but then Cargill, Meechin, and BFAB come out. Uh, Cargill mocked Ripley for last week's 3-on-1 attack, and said her crew was sufficient to drag Ripley down. BFAB and Meechin aired their own opinions towards um, Ripley, which, to be honest, the one thing, like, here's my thing about this segment. Like, because I'm not going to get into it. I don't like, I'm not going to go deep into it about this segment because not really much happened. Nothing happened. They did have some aspects of it, like, you got BFAB and Meechin making some really good points, how, like, not verbatim, but they did say about how Rhea is always staying at the top and keeping the other women down, and how all these other women work their asses off, but then you got, Rhea Ripley at the top. The reason why I didn't like this segment is because it felt flat. It felt just it was a bad segment. It was a bad promo because they were talking over each other. Neither woman got to say their piece. And the one thing that I believe is that you can tell Rhea Ripley is not interested in this match. They're not. Hell, I think both women aren't because this it feels unprofessional. It feels like last year with Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, where that felt uncomfortable the entire time. I am really worried for Ripley and Jade Cargill's match. I hope Ripley doesn't pull a Charlotte like last year, where she sandbags a lot in the match, because it really feels like it's coming to that. It feels like that's where it's going because there's no meat to this feud. Nothing. There was nothing said tonight. Nothing was said last week, and then nothing was said the week before. They had a more interesting beef on Twitter than they did like on TV. Why they don't capitalize on that, I do not know. It makes no sense. They need to pick it up. We are literally 3 weeks away from WrestleMania, and they still have yet to make the viewer feel excited. I don't feel anything for this feud. Will the match be good? To be honest, I do not think so. I think it'll be at least a B minus, match. It's literally what I think about it. Towards the end of the promo segment, um, Cargill announced that BFAB and Ripley, or like um, BFAB will promise a beatdown to Ripley tonight on a match. And then it cuts to commercial. And the weird thing that happened is that tonight for commercials, speaking to commercials, the commercials were very weird tonight. Very weird. Because like it, I don't know. They would it was a very commercial heavy show, but they had weird stopping points. For example, with this, after the promo segment ended, it cuts back to commercial, and the match is already happening. Couldn't they have spared a few more minutes where they can actually get the star of the match going? I honestly wasn't paying attention. And then this is around the time of the show where my wife literally fell asleep. Like my wife just she fell asleep during this show. That's how boring it was. It's boring. It like this show is not bad, but it is outright fucking boring. That's my issue with it. It is a boring, safe, formulaic show with nothing exciting happening. But when they actually do stuff that is actually exciting, it's something that I don't like personally in a booking aspect, as you'll see later tonight. So Rhea Ripley dominates the match, and then Ripley does win the match via disqualification because Cargill interfered and then attacked Ripley. But throughout the entire beatdown at the beginning is that you can still see Ripley overcoming all three of them for the short bit of it. Like she's able to, even while she's distracted, she's able to overcome it all until eventually Jay Cargill and all that finally come out and actually tear her down, and she gets beat down again like last week. Same old formulaic shit. I don't like it. It's boring. I wish I could make it more exciting. I don't want to see the same fucking shit. That was the end of that. We go to commercial, not commercial. We go to a backstage segment where you got Kit Wilson talking to the Miz, because I forgot to mention at the very beginning is that because Jelly Roll had his first match tonight, his very first singles match tonight, which was cool, but I really thought they were going to build it up to WrestleMania, but I guess they didn't like that. Very surprised by this company, but whatever. So, Kit Wilson and The Miz were talking, and The Miz refuses to have a match at all because of what happened. I think, what was it, 2 weeks ago or a week ago? I don't know. When Danhausen cursed The Miz. And then after that, um, Danhausen appeared, talked to Kit Wilson. I don't really pay attention to it about these segments with Danhausen. They are entertaining, but they're kind of like turn your brain off kind of segments, because it's fucking Danhausen. Danhausen appears and he curses Kit Wilson. We all know what happens when someone gets cursed. So another thing that happened for the backstage segment tonight is that Kathy Kelly interviewed a limping Drew McIntyre because earlier before they did a recap of what happened last week with Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu. During the interview with Kathy Kelly, as he's limping into the building, he's he said he was hurting, but had brought Jacob Fatu with him. He brought him down with him when Fatu tried to pull him down. He wasn't there to fight, but he would if Fatu started something. something, noting that Fatu had nothing to lose. That was the end of that interview. And then for the third match tonight, we cut to Jelly Roll versus Kit Wilson. Um, After the match goes on, before the match starts, Wilson brings in another poetry book, like he did last week, about how where he would defend his mother's honor. And he read a poem calling Jelly Roll toxic before attacking him. The match was stereotypical for a celebrity match, but it wasn't that bad of a match. I honestly was entertained for the match. It had some fun spots. It had the leg drop onto his balls. That was fun. Um, you got Jelly Roll doing uh the same Dusty Rhodes punches that Cody does. Um, Jelly Roll hit a belly to belly suplex. Kit Wilson at one point in the match went to the top rope. He went to go do a crossbody, but then Jelly Roll caught him and hit a power slam, which was that was a pretty clean power slam by him, honestly. And then Jelly Roll gets to win via a choke slam. He then celebrated with his son, and he walks back backstage. He walks back basically. Honestly, pretty fun match. I don't like the fact that tonight that Jelly Roll was very heavy on the show. That's literally what happened with Monday Night Raw. Not with Jelly Roll, but still. Like Monday Night Raw, Paul Heyman heavy. SmackDown tonight, Jelly Roll heavy. I never liked that. Never did. I never. I don't like the fact that Jelly Roll was very heavy into this match. Him having a match, if it was like a one off, I would have been fine because the one on one match was fun. It was a fun like entertainment. I was sports entertained, if you could say. It's an alright match. It's still not that bad, but um, it goes to commercial, and then we come back, and then we get a backstage segment with the MFTs. Because if you remember last week on SmackDown, um, yeah, on SmackDown, they Tamatonga accused, or like asked, not asked, he told Solo Sikoa to return the lantern to the Wyatts, saying how it's changing him. He's becoming more like Roman. Solo didn't like that last. He didn't like that. Mind you, this is a segment that happened last week, not what happened now. The segment that happened tonight with the MFTs, Solo Sikoa addresses his faction. He addresses the MFTs, and he's mostly eyeing Tamatonga. And he apologizes for losing control last week, saying that he wasn't himself. But he compares himself or contrasts himself with Roman, saying that at least I'll apologize. Unlike Roman, who never apologized or apologizes. End of that segment of that. But the segment keeps going on where Carmelo Hayes, because the NFTs walk away but leave Tamatonga. Carmelo Hayes is then he confronts Tamatonga about taking it with Solo. Like, is he gonna deal with that? Which wasn't which was like, that they've been teasing Tamatonga and Carmelo Hayes for a while. Or mainly the US title run that they were going for. And then Shinsuke Nakamura comes out of nowhere. I was like, "Oh." Okay, I haven't really been watching SmackDown because it's just a boring show. But like Shinsuke coming out of nowhere in the segment, just talking with Tama Tonga as well, was just kind of fucking funny to me. I don't know. It had no correlation. I don't know where it's going. Probably nowhere, but still kind of funny. After the segment, we get a our fourth match tonight, which was Carmelo Hayes' US title open challenge. And the person that answered the challenge was Sami Zayn, which kind of surprised me. One thing I learned about it after I watched SmackDown was that there was literally a report by Sean Ross Sapp. Not no no corrected. Not from Sean Ross Sapp, but it wasn't from Fightful. But it's no, it was from Fightful. But they took it from WrestleVotes. But regardless, it was Fightful and it was Sapp, in my honest opinion, because they don't report anything about AEW, but they do report a lot of they barely report anything about AEW, but they do report a lot and spoil a lot about what goes on in the WWE. But the report was going on that it spoiled the result of this match 1 hour before SmackDown even started. They reported that Sami Zayn was gonna win the US title. I didn't see the report because I was on Twitter during the show when it was going on, but honestly, I'm kind of glad I missed it. But holy shit. Still didn't like the result. So after Zayn comes out and he's in the ring, Trick Williams then comes out and watches the match at ringside. The thing that's weird about this match is that throughout a lot of it, Sami Zayn is getting a lot of mixed reactions from the crowd. He gets cheers and he gets boos, but I feel like it's been mostly boos. But this company's trying their hardest to get this company cheered, to get him to cheer him. The underdog. But he gets granted opportunities after opportunities, but he's the underdog. Whatever. Carmelo Hayes versus Sami Zayn was a pretty good match. It was probably the match of the night tonight. The thing is though is that the crowd was not into it. They really weren't. Because I think the crowd already knew the result. That's my belief. But I just felt like the crowd was not into the match. So the way the match ended was that Trick Williams tried to interfere by attacking Sami Zayn, but when Carmelo Hayes pushes Zayn against the ropes, Williams tries to forearm Sami Zayn to the face, but instead Sami ducks and Trick Williams forearms Carmelo Hayes in the face. Hayes is knocked down. He crawls to the corner. Sami Zayn hits a haluva kick, and Sami Zayn is your new United States champion. I I don't like this. I really don't. Some may like it, but I feel like majority don't. But here's my thing. Here's my take on it. My issue with the booking of this of Sami Zayn winning the title is because why? You know, we're 3 weeks away from WrestleMania, and you're already changing the US title. Sami Zayn is this close. No, Carmelo Hayes was this close to defending the US title on his first WrestleMania. I think it was his first WrestleMania. Is he gonna miss it? You know? Is he? Because mind you, after this match happened, we get a backstage segment. We get a segment where where Zayn goes backstage, talks to Nick Aldis, and then saying that Zayn, like asking, like, "Am I now going to make WrestleMania?" Aldis then confirms that yes, he's going to make WrestleMania, but he's going to defend the U.S. title against Trick Williams. What about Carmelo Hayes? You know, what about Hayes? Because he's not. He's like the rumor was going around which was debunked, he is not having a honeymoon thing. So why did they do the title change? Do we need a Sami Zayn at WrestleMania? Because Trick Williams is winning the title. Why not just have Sami Zayn in it? Have Carmelo Hayes defend the title in a multi-man match. I don't know. You've been teasing Tama Tonga. Shinsuke Nakamura is in it for some fucking reason. You got Sami Zayn, Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes. You could have done a ladder match, and it would have been a banger. Possibly, I would have been fine with that. But they don't do that. They're gonna do a one-on-one. Knowing this company, we might actually be getting a triple threat. Knowing, but if they actually do like even with Tama Tonga added or Shinsuke with the way they've been doing it for tonight, if that's what they're leading towards, then that literally means that this title change was useless. Why do the title change if Sami Zayn might lose it at WrestleMania? How will this benefit anyone other than Williams? What about Carmelo Hayes? Where's Ilya Dragunov? You know, he was even on the show tonight. Like what? Like why? Why have we resorted to doing this underdog story with Sami Zayn? You know, Sami Zayn to me has kind of fell off with this whole underdog thing. Do I want him to turn heel? No, because he was heel for fucking 6 years. My issue is that they need to change his booking or his character. Don't have him lose a world title match and then 2 months later get granted a US title. Is this how it's gonna go? Where every time whenever Sami Zayn loses the title, he loses a title match, he gets granted a mid card title match and possibly wins the title. If Sammy drops at WrestleMania, this title change is fucking useless. They could have had Hayes drop the title at WrestleMania to Trick Williams, and I would have been okay with that. But they feel the need to do the same people. Whatever. The next segment goes on. Next segment of the night. Jacob Fatu comes out to the ring. He comes out to the ring and he talks uh, about what happened last week to about their brawl last week with Drew McIntyre, saying how that Drew McIntyre threat you're the one that made me lose my chance at the chamber, so therefore I'm gonna mess up your chances with your title, something like that. Fatu then goes on to say that McIntyre tried to take food off his plate, food off his kids' plates, saying how at WrestleMania he's gonna dog walk his ass. The same, basic stuff. McIntyre comes out, and McIntyre is great whenever in whatever story. I love McIntyre. He's been doing great. McIntyre then says that Fatu is not stop playing a victim. You took my champion. You took my only chance. You took my title away. You took my WrestleMania match, my WrestleMania moment away. And then they were threatening to brawl tonight again, but they were in no condition because of what happened last week. But they were still gonna do it anyway. But then Nick Aldis comes out, and then he says that clearly there's tension. Clearly there's still some issues. So they announced that these two are gonna have a match at WrestleMania, but the company won't be at fault. The company will not be involved or be at fault about what happens after. Nick Aldis announces that it will be an unsanctioned match between Nick Aldis between Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I honestly thought it was going to be a Hell in a Cell based on the report, but honestly, it's fine. I would have loved a Hell in a Cell match, but it's all right. Unsanctioned's fine. Can they do a good unsanctioned match? Who knows? I mean, hell, McIntyre has had good matches with rules like this as well. I mean, Hell in the Cell, CM Punk, 2024, that shit was still good. The next match of the night was a non-title match, or was that a title match? Whatever. So the match tonight was Julia defending the not defending uh Julia, the women's US champion, against Tiffany Stratton tonight with Alba Fire? Is that how you pronounce her name? I don't know. At ringside. Initially, wait, not Alba Fire. Good God, never mind. Before the match starts, there was a segment backstage where where Chelsea Green offered to be at ringside with Tiffany Stratton. Stratton said no, and then that was it. And then the match, then when they do their entrances, they do go on. You know, Julia comes out, and then Tiffany Stratton, Julia with um, Kiana James. The match was all right. It was. I have noticed that with Tiffany Stratton, it feels the match was slow. It was very slow and sluggish, and it just feels like they're not really going for it. You know, Tiffany Stratton doesn't feel in the right headspace of this match. In my opinion, I feel like that's how she is right now. The match was basic. Tiffany Stratton was gonna go for the prettiest moonsault, but Kiana James distracts Stratton. She goes for the moonsault. Julia puts her knees up and rolls her up for the pin, and Julia wins. I'm glad that she gets the. I'm glad Julia still wins. Got a win because holy shit, last year was not her year. It was not her year. I don't know what they're doing with Stratton. I don't know what the payoff is with this. I really don't know. But Julia is still staying strong, winning, and because under no circumstances in a non-title match should a champion lose a match. That's my opinion, and that's probably the right opinion. Julia wins, and that's that. And then the final match of the night was a the final match was Randy Orton versus Matt Cardona. Match goes on fine. Crowd, inches go. Cardona, not Cardona. Orton comes out first. Crowd sings his song, and and you can tell on Orton's face that he is trying his hardest. Like he's trying his hardest not to do the whole ear thing. Act like he's listening to the crowd and stuff because he loves it. He loves it deep down that the crowds are singing the song now. After his entrance, Matt Cardona's entrance goes, and then he tries to run into the ring, to get the match going early, but Orton just stomps him down and stops any momentum going. But then Matt Cardona attacks back. He retaliates by using his arm cast as basically a weapon. But after that, that was the only form of offense that Matt Cardona got in this match. I wouldn't even call it a match. It was more of a beatdown. Throughout the entire match, Orton was just dominating and dominating on Matt Cardona. He was destroying him. He throughout the entire time, he just kept on wrenching on his arm to the point where he took off his cast. He kept on wrenching on it, putting it between the ropes and wrenching and wrenching. and then he pulls him to the ring and just hits him with just with one RKO. It's over. Cardona got buried tonight. He got buried hard. There really wasn't anything to go on about this match. Really, nothing. It was just a brutalization by Orton onto Matt Cardona, which I really did like. It was great, but like, oh my god, that was bad. It was really really bad. So after Orton stood victorious, and his after Orton wins the match, he stands victorious, arms up and everything, and then you see the Titantron. You see a bus coming down to the building. It's Cody's tour bus. It is appeared to be Cody Rhodes coming out to confront Orton. The funny thing about this segment is that Cody Rhodes took literally 5 years. It took him 5 years just to get to the ring. They had the camera on him for 5 minutes, and it kept on going and going with Cody just walking backstage. Like, I really thought he was never gonna get to the ring. Like, it was just bad execution. It was bad timing. They could have edited it. They could have done an edit of him walking in, but no, they had to do it live. Whatever. But it got so bad that they had to, like, security's already out to the point they finally brought security out for Orton. And then they had to have Orton attack security to just entertain the fans until Cody gets into the fucking ring. He took his sweet ass time to get to the fucking ring. Until when he finally gets in the ring, security is already separating them both. Cody gets some offense in, Orton gets some offense in, and then Orton constantly is like trying to walk away, run away, get away from Cody, and then Cody still is brawling. And then throughout this segment, throughout this brawl, every now and then, like Cody would throw security, Orton would throw security. You know, it would be back and forth. It was just an overall boring segment. Like, it was probably the lamest one I've seen in terms of, "Ooh, let's separate the 2 superstars with security." It's one of the weakest ones I've seen. I'm being dead serious. Like, Samoa Joe, Brock Lesnar, no one talks about, did they have a security segment? I don't know, but it was still pretty cool. No one like Brock Lesnar, John Cena, nothing will top that one. So eventually, Orton Orton and Cody are separated across the ring from each corner post, from each corner. And then Jelly Roll comes out. First, he talks to Orton, and then he goes to try to talk to Cody. Orton breaks out of the security, and then he RKO's Jelly Roll, and then he leaves the ring. And then that was the end of the segment, that was the end of the show. honestly, honestly, like the show was fine. The show was fine. It was like it was a basic B. It was a safe show. Other than Sami Zayn getting the title, it was an alright show, but I don't like the fact that SmackDown's 3 hours. I really never I don't like that. I still don't like that. But it wasn't that bad of a show. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't good, but it wasn't horrible. That's what I should say. Do I think there's a lot of things that they need to work on? Like Rhea Ripley and Jay Cargill, they need to up the ante. For the love of God, please just like fucking fight each other, like brawl. I don't know. Like get some blood in it. Will blood save this feud? I honestly don't know. I really don't know. Will it be good for the match? No. I changed my mind. No, the match is not going to be good. I will be very surprised if they have a fucking like 4-star match. I will be very surprised. Um, the matches tonight were all right. I was kind of disappointed with the Orton and Cody thing. Like this is Cody's first time back since Orton decimated Cody 2 weeks ago. And this is what you do? No promo, no nothing. Just Cody comes in, brawl. And I don't like the fact. And another thing I don't like is that I don't like the fact that you got one of the biggest WrestleMania matches, Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton for the world title, and you're having the whole basis of this match be around fucking Jelly Roll. Why? Why are we doing that? Look, I like Jelly Roll, I do, but like, there's no reason for him to be the main focus of the world title match. They fucked it up last year. Remember Travis Scott? Fiend. Like, no. Travis Scott coming out was terrible last year. It was one of the worst main events ever. Even if they didn't have Travis Scott in it, it was still one of the worst main events ever because of their terrible booking. They try to have Cody, they try to have John Cena as a heel because they wanted a moment. They didn't think about the consequences of said moment. And also, they did it because they didn't want Cody getting booed. It failed. Cody's going to get booed at WrestleMania this year regardless. It's fucking Orton. I don't know what's. I don't know. I hope we get a better segment next week. And Orton better win the match. He better win. I'm being dead serious here. Orton better win the match and win the world title. Because if Cody retains, what are we doing? Are they going to drag it on for like backlash? Backlash. I can't do it. My throat's fucked up. But still, backlash. There we go. But still, still, the matches tonight were fine. I don't like they were fine. Sammy and Carmelo Hayes was the best match of the night. The tag team matches was fine. I am glad they are finally building up the tag team division again for the women's. If only they can do the same thing for the men. It's like I don't know. I don't like the fact that Jelly Roll was a heavy focus on tonight. Sami Zayn winning the title was still one of the dumbest decisions in my opinion. Carmelo Hayes had a pretty good run. He did. I'm glad he had a good run with the title. I still wish he could have had more with it and then dropped that at WrestleMania to Trick Williams. Because like this US title thing was making stars when Sami Zayn dropped it to Ilya Dragunov. People were getting behind Ilya Dragunov, and then once Carmelo Hayes beat Ilya Dragunov out of nowhere, people were starting getting behind Carmelo Hayes. Ilya Dragunov is nowhere to be seen. Did he piss in Triple H's coffee? Because like, what the hell? Like, why? Ever since the Rumble, Ilya Dragunov has been nothing more than a joke. You got everyone no selling his fucking chops. Ridiculous. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. All I know is that we got Trick Williams and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. That a lot of stuff was confirmed for more of the card tonight for WrestleMania, for more of the card going into WrestleMania. Fatu and McIntyre, not Hayes, Trick Williams and Sami Zayn. Got some more going on. I think we'll get more revealed next week for some more of the card, mainly for the women's tag team matches. I don't know who the Usos are defending the titles against. I mean, they're defending the titles on Raw against Division, but I don't know what's going to happen for WrestleMania. We still got 3 weeks to go. Come next week will be 2 weeks. Pick it up. WrestleMania is literally around the corner. They gotta pick it up. They gotta pick it up. My honest opinion, Monday Night Raw has been like based on my first episode of Raw, on my first review on this channel this week. Raw has the better stuff going on. Finn Balor and Judgment Day. Finn Balor and Judgment Day. Brock and Obafemi. Roman Reigns and Punk is kind of shit right now, but still, majority of it's better. It is fucking better. Hell, you got Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vakir. They had a brawl on Raw this week, and it was more interesting than whatever happened with Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill. And they didn't even need words. And I remember for weeks that people have been shitting on fucking not Jade, Stephanie Vakir and Liv Morgan constantly with the story, with their feud. Because if you remember, and the show doesn't even make you remind it, Liv Morgan is the Royal Rumble winner. She won the Rumble this year. I'm glad they're giving her more, but give her even more. Give those two women more. Stop trying to give more with Rhea Ripley and Cargill when the match is probably not going to be that good anyway. This company needs to do better. If not now, then at WrestleMania. Let the Raw after Mania be the start of a brand new, like a Triple H says, new era. You know, let it be for a new era. Start utilizing new talent. Stop relying on old heads. Get some new faces as champs. Start building up some new stars. Get someone fresh. Because overall, right now, it's just been the same for so many years. Well, that's about all I have it for my first ever SmackDown review. B plus. B plus. I'll give it. It's an all right show. Let's hope next week they do better. I have no hope, but let's hope they do better next week. Come Monday, I will do my review for Monday Night Raw, and it will. I look forward to Raw. Honestly, Raw looks like a packed show next week, and I can't wait for it. I hope every one of y'all liked my review of SmackDown tonight. I know I rambled on. I feel like I've been doing a little bit better compared to my very first video of the channel, but I do think I've been doing better recently, or better for this episode at least of SmackDown. If you like the video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna keep repeating this, so it's gonna be kind of annoying for me and for you. But if you like the video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Square Mat Podcast. Please be sure to share it around with other people. Get the channel talk and get the channel going. It would mean a lot to me and it will help me a lot. This is a passion project for me, and I want to make it succeed. Because honestly, I am having a lot of fun with doing these kind of videos. This like change of it makes me feel happy about making these kind of videos. I get to express how I feel in a space where people can hear how I feel and how I view wrestling. So please, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification. Hell, Hit the notification bell that you get notified every anytime I upload a video. So please be sure to comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you all on Monday Night Raw. Hopefully, it's gonna be a banger show. I hope SmackDown's gonna do better next week. I will record that. Other, this build's not been good. Anyway, I'm gonna cut it. Y'all take care. Goodbye and God bless.